Welcome to New Trials, the podcast. I'm Preya.
And I'm Melanie.
The New Trials of Captor Sakura, Syaoran and Friends is a popular ongoing fanfic by Wishluv, and it's based off of Clamp's Captor Sakura. And in each episode, we'll do a deep dive of a new chapter. Let's get into it.
So to bring up a follow-up from our last episode, last episode we had discussed the relationship between Nadeshiko and Ryorin, and we could not remember whether or not there was a true confession between the two of them. So I went to our fellow fans and I asked everyone on our Facebook page. By the way, if you're not already on the Facebook page, highly recommend it. That's where most of our activity is nowadays. But basically, I asked the group, number 1, did Nadeshiko confess to Ryorin? 2, did Ryorin confess to her? Or 3, was there never a confession, or was it just implied? And if you remember from last episode, I said what I thought I remembered happening was that Nadeshiko confessed to him, but he never got a chance to, but I wasn't for sure. So I asked the group, and thank you, Catherine Bourne Taylor. I'm going to just say all 3 of your names. Thank you so much for commenting. But basically, Catherine said, I think you're right. They did have that scene as adults with their children, where I remember him implying to her how he felt about her, but I don't think he ever did a confession, and it was a regret he carried. So there we go.
Thank you, Catherine.
Yes, thank you so much. And we love it when you guys comment. So please email us any comments or Facebook, whatever. We love to talk to you guys and we love to discuss topics.
Okay. So, you said you had a question for me, Melanie.
Oh, yes. So this chapter very much has to do with spooky things and ghosts and all that fun stuff. So, Preya, have you ever seen a ghost, or have you ever had a scary experience like that?
No, I've never seen a ghost. The closest thing I've been to around ghosts is when my cat starts acting weird and starts to trace something with his eyes without meowing, but there's something in our apartment that he can't let go of, and I can just see his eyes tracking from one side to the other, and I'm like, yep, someone's hanging out here. I don't know who, but that's as far as I went.
But you just love when that happens, or when your kid is just playing peekaboo with the wall and then you're like, what the heck?
And those like Snapchat videos I've seen, like the dog sticking out the tongue. It's like you'll have a phantom's tongue just sticking out too, so you don't know what kind of ghosts are just chilling in your room.
Yeah, I'm always scared to open up Snapchat when I'm by myself because I think there's going to be like a face over my shoulder or something.
I know you have a story though.
Yeah, so I'm kind of a weird person in the fact that I love scary stuff in person. I love to go on ghost type adventures. I love being like locked in haunted locations. I love all of that. But ask me to sit down and watch a scary movie and I will say no. But some ones that off the top of my head I can think of is there's this orphanage here in Missouri, which is super close to where I live. And this place has not only been an orphanage, but it's been an old folks home at one point and a psych ward. And up on like the first floor, they have all these chalkboards of where the orphanage school used to be. And there's a recording, and you can hear my friend and I walking around up there. And all these people that have been to the location in the past have written their names on the chalkboard. So you can hear me very clearly on the recording say, where's the chalk? Because I'm wanting to write my name. And clear as a bell, you can hear a little kid say, chalk over there.
Okay, I got goosebumps.
And there was no kids up there. It was just my friend and I. The whole rest of the group was clear downstairs, which is 3 flights of stairs down. So there's no way this recording could have picked up anything. So yeah, that's probably I have a couple other stories, but I'll save them maybe for a different episode if scary stuff gets brought up again. But yeah, that's probably my scariest experience.
That is terrifying, and I'm glad I was not with you. All right. So today we'll be talking about chapter 3 of Ghosts, Statues and Quarrels. It was posted in the fall or winter of 1999, and in the New Trials timeline, it takes place during September during 8th grade. Word count is 5,212, so slightly shorter than the last chapter. Now here's a chapter summary. Sakura, Syaoran, and Tomoyo and Malin brave a storm, and once Sakura gets past her fear of ghosts, she captures the haunt with ease. Malin yearns for Syaoran's approval, but also notices how the dynamics between him and Sakura has changed. In other words, the formality with the names and his mood swings from nice to harsh towards her. The research has taken its toll on both Sakura and Syaoran, who burst into a bitter dispute before class begins. Syaoran apologizes to Sakura, brought her to tears. During PE, Sakura captures the stone on her own as Syaoran was turned into a statue. He doesn't hold back on his praise, which confuses Sakura and makes her think of days when they used to use each other's given names. In order to conceal their identity as the origin of the new power, Aaron and Erica cast a spell to veil their role as enemies. Okay, let's begin. Melanie, would you like to start?
Sure. I know Wish-chan has said in the past that this is one of her least favorite titles she's ever done. But in my opinion, it's probably the most CCS sounding one. I think if you just added Sakura on the front of it, Sakura and the ghost statues and Quarrels, that would 100% be a CCS episode.
I love that observation. I'm really getting used to Maylin being part of the gang. Lee cousin bickering is one of my favorite things. Seeing them like just because Sharon's pretty respectful when it comes to girls, and he's not gonna. Well, first, basically, he doesn't talk to people. So let alone girls other than Sakura and Tomoyo. So to see him like scolding Maylin for like bringing her an outfit that's not like not for the weather, I thought that was pretty hilarious.
I also like that she calls him out too on like his attitude. And then she's like, what the heck are you doing? Like, why are you being so rude? I like that too, that she it does not hold back and she's as fiery as ever.
And speaking of fire, you're doing such a great job voicing Maylin in your audiobook.
Thank you so much. She's a super fun character to read. And I feel like I'm getting more of a handle on the characters and how I want to voice them. I'm being hard on myself. I don't feel like this performance was the best. So I appreciate you saying that. But I promise everyone I get better as the chapters go along.
I like the way that Malin is still having mixed feelings about liking Syaoran, but she likes Sakura too as a friend. It's like even towards the end of the chapter when they were fighting, Syaoran and Sakura, Malin was totally on Team Sakura.
Yes, I feel like she's definitely turning into a girl's girl. And I think you can see that as we kind of go along here. I just adore her. She's so fun.
Moving on, I thought it was interesting how like Sakura continues keep the card captor business away from Tuya in arc one, and then by the time arc four comes along, he's part of the circle, part of the alliance. He's more in the loop. But do you remember a transition period where he goes from I'm not telling you anything, Oni-chan, to welcome, or did it just happen with the alliance?
Oh, that is such a good question. And what's funny is I actually wrote down the same thing to discuss with you, but not that specific question. Just the fact that I feel like this is the first admittance that Toya knows what's going on. I know he transfers his powers to Yukito, or excuse me, Yue, and the original CCS, but I don't feel like there's ever a specific scene where him and his sister discuss she has this like huge responsibility and all of that. But new trials wise, gosh, I'm trying to think. Man, that is such a good question. Do you have any recollection?
I don't, because it's like, it's about the new trials of Sakura, Sharon, and friends, and Oni-chan's not really a friend. The only time we get to check in with him really is during like the hospital arc.
Yes, and I feel like maybe it's around the plague incident too, when, Sakura uses all her life force with the heal and then Shadow transfers his powers. So that might have been we'll get there eventually, and I might look this up as a correction for next episode too. But that might have been about where he's like, okay, obviously I know what's going on. Obviously my sister really overexerted herself, but I'll look into that because that's a super good question.
Yeah, because it's like the jig is up with the mirror. Tuya's like Sakura knows that Tuya can see right through it. It's like ever since the CCS days. But in this chapter, when he's like, "Where were you last night?" and I had to think back, where was she last night? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's when she spent the night at Syaoran's. And for him to like keep his cool, I think he's maturing.
Well, I think he realizes his sister is very much a teenager now, and it's only going downhill from here.
Uh, what did you think of Sharon and Sakura's big fights?
I also wrote that down too. So the first thing I want to mention about it is I feel like this is Wish Chan's first kind of stepping towards character development, not only for like the side characters, because I feel like everyone gets character development as we go along, but I feel like this is her first step with character development for Sakura specifically, because in the anime, she's so optimistic. She's like, she gets sad, but, she's a very bubbly, upbeat girl. You would never see her get angry at anybody, kind of like what Tomeo mentions earlier in the chapter when the argument happens. So I just think it's fascinating that Wish Chan realizes, like, hey, she's not this cute little bubbly 10-year-old anymore. She has all this responsibility on her shoulders. She's a teenager trying to live a normal life, but yet she has all these responsibilities on her that would get to anybody. So I just love the fact that it's like character growth with Sakura. Like, it's okay that she gets mad. It kind of humanizes her character
Oh,
a
for
little.
sure.
And I love that. I love that it humanizes her. And then I just feel, and I know Wish Chan has said before that she actually has the hardest time writing Syaoran and Sakura scenes as we go along into the story, but I just love how she kind of develops Sakura from here and kind of, we get more into like her being very prideful and all this stuff as we go along. But yeah, I just think this was just really fascinating to read because I think it's just such a step in what Wish Chan is going to do with her character, but still keep it in canon too.
Hmm. Like that part where Sharon was saying that his father was murdered. I think it's interesting that like it's not until arc 4 that we see his death, but I just have such secondhand embarrassment for both of them because they were fighting in front of the whole class.
Oh, and a teacher present and everything. I also feel like we know he kind of called out the fact that your mom got to die blissfully with her family, whereas my father was away from all of us and died on his own. That's super dark.
Super dark and TMI. Like, Sharon, what are you doing? And it's like you can tell how exhausted of that he like how exhausted he is to lose himself like that.
Well, we know at this point too, as we go along, that he's not only is he, I mean, the boy is suppressing all sorts of emotions in this arc 1. And so, I think it's just him just, trying to keep it together, but a volcano is going to erupt sooner or later if you just keep everything bubbled in constantly.
Well, I like the way he was very quick to apologize though, and when Sakura started crying and like he didn't hold a grudge and it's like, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. So that was really big of him.
I love that the teacher was like, conflict and apology or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote, but I thought that was pretty cute.
And like even when I was reading the chapter, I'm like, are the emotions out? And Aaron and Erica even like talk about that.
Yeah, they mentioned the argument and they call it the argument. And I don't think that has made an appearance that I
See, we didn't get an argument, but I was like referring to Kiri-chan's list of cards, and recently we Sakura caught the wrath.
yes, I remember that. So, gosh, I can't remember if there was like a big blow up argument. I know, gosh, I'm not to that chapter yet in my reread. But yeah, I don't think a specific card called the argument has happened yet.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And it's like going to be interesting if it just stays that way, like back in the 90s, as like a minor footnote, or if it is going to have an appearance, because these emotions are just, you know what? Maybe the argument is attacking Kai and Meilin.
Oh, that is a very good note because they fight a lot in Arc 4.
Yeah, because when we leave them, they're currently broken up, and Kai actually has no idea why Malin is so mad. And Malin is like, "Well, if you don't know why, like I'm mad, then I'm not gonna tell you," kind of like mood.
Yeah, oh, that is a super good point. Like, but like what we talked about a couple episodes ago is I'll never put anything past Wish Chan for her to bring things up again because I just think her foreshadowing skills are just amazing.
Oh yeah, and the story's not over yet. She can always do some tweaks. We would never know.
Very true. Very true.
Um, what I really like, speaking of foreshadowing, what I really like about this chapter is that it's the first mention of the veil.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I think that's very interesting. And I feel like that was very smart of Wish Chan to do because I feel like that's always kind of a big plot hole in most of these type of shows or books or whatever that you as the reader are reading it and you're like, really? You guys can't put two and two together that there are these twins that are supposedly evil, then you have these twins in your class, all these things happen and they just happen to disappear. So I love the fact that Wish Chan kind of explains that with this veil card. So it makes us understand as an audience, oh, okay, so that's why they feel like they can't see anything or they can't put two and two together. And not to jump far ahead, but that's one of my favorite Sakura scenes moving forward when everyone just assumes that Sakura still doesn't know. And then she's like, no, I've known for a long time. And you're like, wow.
Yeah, I was thinking about that scene too. And I was like, what? You know? It's like, yeah, I figured it out. I guess the veil was like either losing its potency or maybe Sakura was just becoming too strong of a magician. But yeah, I remember that too. I really like the line that Wish-chan writes in this chapter about Syaoran. It's like, why did he have a feeling that someone was veiling him from the truth?
Yes, I was going to mention that as well. I thought that was very clever writing on her part.
Do you have anything more to say about the veil and whatnot?
Not the chapter specifically. I have some comments on the dark forces if we're ready to highlight them.
Okay, before we get there, well, we can sort of seg our way into that. Uh,
Sure.
the scene with the stone, it reminded me so much of the crystal.
Yes. Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. And I don't know if we want to call it foreshadowing,
No.
sort of ish, but but I agree though. It kind of gives you the same feeling for sure.
Yeah, I remember that because, like, in this chapter, Sharon was the one who turned into stone before Sakura could capture it, and in the crystal, she was the one who was like frozen, and Sharon had to do it. So I think it was a nice parallel.
Parallel. Yes, that is the perfect word. Yes, parallel for sure. Hmm.
So we had a couple of dark forces in this chapter. We had the haunt, and I love the way that Sakura used light to capture the haunt.
Yes, I thought that was very clever as well.
But still, imagine being in the dark and with a woo, and then you use the light and you see the actual ghost. I think that's scarier than hearing the woos.
Well, and we all know just how scared she is of ghosts. And for the fact that this is a literal card of her biggest fear, I just think it was such a good scene of just her having to just face her fears the whole, I keep calling it an episode, but the whole chapter basically.
Yeah, and the haunt is a card that's going to come back in new trials.
Indeed, in just
Mhm.
a couple. chapters from now.
Yeah. And Sakura uses watery to capture the stone.
Yeah, I also thought that was pretty clever too, of water and sand not mixing. So I thought that was very clever.
Digi Dynasty, she also drew both cards, and I'll post the links in the description on Facebook. But I can't help but think that her drawing of the stone is very similar to Clamp's design of the time. So when I post that, you'll take a look.
Sure.
Yeah. So speaking of fan art, though, so not to be a narcissist or anything like that, but my fan art spotlight is actually fan art that I did back I think it was is last year for for one of the drawing challenges. So let's see, 2 years ago actually. So yeah, August 2020 for New Trials is one of the 30 Days of New Trials fan art projects that I would do. And the prompt was day 15 next to something that they're afraid of. And I saw it as a perfect opportunity to draw Wish-chan's description of Sakura's outfits, the one that Tomoyo made for her in her pink dress and her pink cloak with all the ruffles. So I had a really fun time with that. And the ghosts were inspired by Digi Dynasty's cards.
It is adorable, and I am absolutely obsessed with those ghosts. I think they're just the cutest thing. I'm kind of obsessed with her cloak too. I kind of want it.
And I don't remember 100% because I've only seen it once, but in the Clear Card series, I think that Sakura is wearing like a pink outfit with a cape that reminds me of this outfit.
Ah, Clams, they know about new trials. They're just not admitting it.
uh, if only New Trials could be an anime, huh?
Oh man, we could only wish.
Did you have anything else you'd like to talk about this chapter?
I don't think so. I think that's all I wanted to bring up. Shall I move on with the author's note?
Please do.
All right. So, author's note, still calling herself author, fall, winter, 1999. Finally finished the other half of this chapter. Sorry for any person that suddenly found this chapter midair. Odd, isn't it? Do you get the spell that Eran put on S and S? It's to keep them from suspecting that Eran and Erika are evil. After all, it is so obvious who the new enemies are. What's with the quarreling? I think all stories should have some sweet quarreling. Don't know what you think. I have many ideas for future chapters, and they are better ones than the ones so far. It's just that I need some sort of beginning. Beginnings are meant to be less fun. Sometimes. Yes, all this junk was just beginning. Did you notice that Sakura and Syaoran aren't calling each other by their names anymore? Why? It's because they aren't sure of their friendship after a gap between them. Next chapter is about a school camping trip. It'll be out soon since it's half done. Watch out. More sweetness, adventure, and whatever junk. Oh, yeah. I think I forget to mention that any of you who want to put my fanfic on your home pages, and then she shouts out her email. And then Wish-chan, August 2012, Chapter 3 of Ghost Statues and Quarrels version 2.0 here. Wow, can there be a more literal chapter title? I think it is my least favorite title to date. Did anyone notice? The veil was first introduced in this chapter and does not make a proper appearance until Arc 4. It took long enough. I think New Trials really began for me in the next chapter, the camping trip, which I think remains a favorite for many readers. And then she shouts out her blog and all that fun stuff at the very end.
Oh yeah, we never talked about the way Sakura calls Syaoran Lee-kun or Kun.
Very true. And, and I think, kind of how we talked about in our second episode, when you just don't talk to someone for 2 years, you're going to grow apart from them, and without having a sit down conversation of a not really a DTR define the relationship, but sort of, and I think, and I'm sorry that I don't know 100% for sure, but I know honorifics and whatnot are very important in Japanese culture. So to me, it makes sense that they would start off on last name basis again.
See, it's like we say the last name basis on both parts. But Sakura is the only one calling Syaoran Lee-kun. You never hear Syaoran call her Kinomoto-chan.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that is very true.
He does the like "Hey you," and I think it's only in the chapter where I don't know if it's the Christmas chapter, but basically it's a scene where they're both studying in the library, and the only place that Sakura can find is next to Syaoran, and he calls her Kinomoto-san, and she just freaks.
Well, in true format that all of our listeners will know by now, all this went completely over my head.
I don't know. I have a fondness for little details.
Which is why you are the perfect co-host for me.
We make a good team.
I also think it's very interesting at the end of her author's note. She says that next chapter is the camping trip, which, by the way, everyone, that will be split into 2 episodes on our part, because that's how Wish-chan originally posted it. Besides that point, we had talked a couple episodes ago of when we feel like New Trials kicks off. You know, we had discussed, you know, New York. We had discussed
the beginning of Arc 2.
Thank you. Yes. But then we also mentioned the camping trip, and voila, that's where Wish-chan feels like it starts to kick off as well.
Yeah, so basically the first 3 chapters is the prologue.
Yes, that's a very good statement.
Yes. Oh no, the camping trip is really special. It's her first foray in like long form writing because it was originally a 2-parter, and yeah, we get to meet a fun card and some bonding between S and S that we've been waiting for.
Yes, definitely some of the best scenes in New Trials 1 specifically. But yes, I agree with you that I feel like this is where Wish-chan really kind of found her voice as an author. And I think that's very apparent. And she realized what she's good at is long form writing, to your point. And yeah, I just think I'm so excited to talk about the next chapter, even though we're splitting it. But we have to split it into 2 because there's so much to cover.
Oh yeah, it's going to be interesting to see our future podcasts when the chapters are insanely long. I think I'm going to have to like split them in maybe 3 parts, 4 parts. Only time will tell.
Yes, because YouTube will only let me upload hour-long videos. And some of these chapters, even now we're getting into, are already an hour long when I go to record them for the audiobook, let alone when I get to that one chapter that is the length of the first Harry Potter novel. We'll figure out the kinks when we get there, but
well, I'm pretty sure that we've talked about everything we needed to about this really cute chapter. Thank you for listening to New Trials, the podcast, where it must rain for there to be a rainbow.
Listening to New Trials, the podcast, please be sure to check out our audiobook, which you can find anywhere you can find this podcast that is narrated by Melanie. Also, please be sure to check out the original fan fiction by Wish-chan that you can find on fanfiction or on her original website. We also now have a Google address at ntthepod@gmail.com. Please be sure to send us any chapter discussions you would like us to talk about, any questions that you might have, and we will discuss them in our next episode. Please be sure, if it is a chapter-specific question, that you are getting us the question at least in a week's advance so that we have time to get it into that episode. Be sure to join us for the next chapter, which is chapter 4, the camping trip, that will be in 2 parts.